Hello and welcome back to Karma Stories. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today I have some stories for you from the Tales from Tech Support subreddit. Before we start today, just a quick thank you to those of you who have taken a look at my pen site, and the few of you that have purchased there, you guys are awesome. We have a maroon flake pen going down to San Diego, a teal and purple one that I call Sully going down to Green Bay, and we have a Coca-Cola wood and a blue-purple resin going down to Rockville, Maryland. Thank you for your support, I really do appreciate it, and if you haven't checked it out yet, you can take a look at these wonderful pens I'm making at CanadianRob.com. Alright, on to today's stories, let's jump right in. This story comes to us from Tim Erling. I don't know what it's doing, so it can't be important, right? Back in my MSP days, I supported a client that was in the building next to our office. They had outgrown their original office space and were unable to get any more space in the building they were in, so they had rented some space in the building across the street. Rather than pay for another internet connection and router, plus VPN to join the networks, we had set them up with a point-to-point wireless bridge to provide connectivity between the offices. It wasn't great, but it was serviceable enough for their needs, and more importantly, fit into their limited non-profit budget. One day, we got a call from them saying that the network was down at the secondary office. They still had Wi-Fi, but no connection to the internet or network drives at the main office. I went over and did some initial troubleshooting at both locations, and all the network gear seemed fine and was responding to ping except for the wireless antenna at the main office. I hadn't been the one to install this and wasn't actually sure where it was, so I went and talked to the network engineer who had set it up. He took me outside and we looked up at the roof of the client's main office. He pointed at an antenna up there and said, "That's not our antenna, let's go see what's happening." We go into the client's building and ask the building's receptionist if they know about anyone having any network maintenance done. We get told that one of the local wireless ISPs is up on the roof doing some work. We get roof access and sure enough, find an ISP tech hooking up a new antenna onto the bracket we had used to install our client's wireless bridge, with our antenna laying sadly on the ground. After a brief conversation, he apologized and said he had asked the building manager if our client's antenna was being used for anything, or if he could take it down and reuse the mounting hardware. Apparently, the building manager didn't know what it was, but told him that no, it wasn't in use, and sure, go right ahead and take it down. We asked him nicely to put our crap back and install his own darn bracket, which he kindly did. Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called Dakdoof. It says, the confidently incorrect. It baffles me how some people just refuse to say, I don't know, maybe I should check, before jumping to conclusions. Happy to read the ISP tech was being reasonable at least. Okay, if you think about this one, the tech did do their due diligence. They asked the building manager if that antenna was in use, and the building manager said no, like they knew what they were talking about. So I don't think we can really put this one on that tech. And they did put it back up and install their own bracket, so everything turned out okay. Sometimes, instead of going around and confirming if something is correct, which could take a lot of time, just doing it and then seeing if there's fallout could be much shorter. This story comes to us from Jasha E. Curiosity is punished immediately. I currently work at a small company building very specialized servers. My main job is to actually physically assemble the machines and set them up, including parts of quality control. As I am still in training, not specialized at all, and it is a very small company, I also became the de facto administrator for our ticketing system. I overhear chatter of a customer having trouble with their machine and asking for assistance to fix it. Not super unusual, but it's a slow day and I enjoy working on problems. So I snoop around for the ticket. It's titled roughly, "Trouble Finding Hard Drive." Okay, I think to myself, is it not recognized by the system? Not formatted properly? I scroll further, and indeed, the drive being not recognized by the machine was the original error. Sadly, this was also the drive containing the system partition, with all the headache this brings with it. A little further scrolling, and I'm greeted by horrible tech gore. The customer had taken it upon himself to disassemble the server entirely. He had stripped it down almost as far as I get when I start installing components, all because he had been looking for the drive. The environment, far as I can tell between the strewn parts, doesn't exactly look like dedicated work surface, anti-static mats or something. In the customer's feeble defense, he was looking for an NVMe drive that is directly on the motherboard. He had disassembled a partition of heatsinks that could house those and found only empty slots. The foil still on the pads of the heatsinks, probably telling him that he was looking at the wrong spot. This is when he finally relented and asked. Had he consulted the manual, available in something like 20 languages, he would have found that NVMe slot 1 would have been easily accessible under its own little heatsink. I am slowly becoming scared of our customers and the things they will do to these machines. Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called MapTechLady. It says, "In the biz, this is what I refer to as a type of panic clicking. Something goes wrong, they panic, and then literally click everything under the sun to try and fix it. Audio not picking up in a virtual call? Delete the audio advice, remove the firmware, maybe that's the problem. Delete some config files, click on everything that looks like a mic icon. Then, when it's really bad, call the IT help desk to fix the whole thing. At that point, we can't do anything because of missing config files, so we have to rebuild it from scratch. Good times." OP responded to this one and said, "I'm not sure if I would put this under panic clicking, which is a nice term, but I do know panic screwing doesn't paint the right picture. When you're doing support for a customer like this, you just hope that their contract says that if they mess with the server themselves, their warranty is kaput. Like if you have to go in there and take all that time to put everything back together that the client took apart, you definitely get to charge them 10 hours at $300 an hour to put that back together. Call it stupidity tax." This story comes to us from an Eldritch writer. Phone isn't providing a sign-in code, it just has this button on the screen that says refresh code. IT from state government here. Got an incident today for a Teams phone problem from my favorite state department, and I say that with so much sarcasm. This department is notorious for ignoring instructions and then freaking out when things don't work as a result. For the Teams phones, for example, they have been told many times they need to put in a network request, so the networks are configured for the team phones, and a telephone request so they can get a Teams phone number before they set up a physical phone. If you don't do these two things first, your phone isn't going to work properly. They always forget and then make it a problem for everyone. Well, this one ticket I got added to, the issue was that the guy had his new Teams phone all set up, plugged in and everything, but he couldn't sign in. It told him to go to the Microsoft sign-in page and type in the code provided, but according to him, no code was provided. Generally, on his phone model, not providing a sign-in code is an instant red flag that the network isn't configured. So, my very first thing asking him, "Have you put in a network request ticket for this phone?" and explained to him why it's possible the network is not configured. Shockingly, he provided the ticket number for his network request, the name of the technician who worked on it, and the date the request was completed. I'm genuinely not used to that from his department. A pleasant surprise. So likely not a network issue, but I shot a message to the technician to see if he could check on the network just in case. Also possible a firewall got missed after all. Entering the territory of, this might actually be a genuine issue, I start grilling him for more details on what exactly was going on. Asking how the phone was plugged in, if the network cable was damaged at all, asking him to describe what happens when he presses the refresh code button on the screen. Does it loop back to the sign-in page, unable to connect? Does it give him any error messages, etc.? Oh, I guess I didn't know I had to click it. He didn't know that he had to click the button that said to refresh to get the code he needed. The big button on the middle of the screen that says refresh code with the login instructions right there above it. This whole circus because he wasn't clicking the button that the phone was telling him to click. Had such high hopes that it wasn't going to be user error this time. You'd think that people who got hired into an office job would have met the prerequisite of at least basic reading comprehension. There's a big button there and it says refresh code. So if you need a code and you don't have one and you see that big button that says refresh code, you could read that and know exactly what you need to do. Oy, I'm glad I don't work in IT. This story comes to us from Half MT. Got a question that actually stunned me. I'm currently working at the help desk in a university library. I'm the unofficial team lead, so I'm fielding most tickets since it's the summer semester and tickets are slow. Had a professor come up to the desk a few days ago telling me her laptop won't upgrade to Windows 11 and the battery keeps losing charge. Quick test shows that yes, indeed, the battery is borked, so I replace it with one of the multitude I have salvaged from broken PCs the university just throws out. But this story isn't about my boundless private junkyard, it's about this professor. I address why her computer won't upgrade to Windows 11, and it's because her hard drive is nearly full, 226 gigabytes out of a 256 gigabyte SSD. Not enough space to upgrade. Easy fix. Nope. I ask her if she uses OneDrive and she tells me no. I tell her it's quite easy and secure, and since the university pays for 5 terabytes per professor, she'll never have to worry about running out of space. Her response, "Oh, I don't use that. Everyone can see it. See? This means I'm on the internet and everyone can see what's on my computer," she says, pointing to the C drive icon in File Explorer. I collect myself and explain this is not the case. I convince her we can use OneDrive as a backup while I replace her hard drive since the university has no means of cloning drives. I start to walk her through the procedure, unaware of the verbal torpedo speeding towards me that will forever hurt my brain to think of. Okay, first, click on your Documents folder. What's a click? This just didn't derail my train of thought, it sent it into orbit. This kicked off an hour session of me explaining what clicking is, that a hard drive with partitions is like a pie chart, that people can't see what her computer has on it without her password, that she has to double click on desktop icons, what double clicking is, and that when Windows says hi on her screen during a first login, it's not a Microsoft rep trying to talk to her. I resolved her issues, installed the new drive, put all her old data back, and she happily went on her way. At least her reception was positive, and she wrote my director a glowing thank you note about me. But what's a click will now and forever be my bar of questions that makes the record scratch go off in my brain. Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called Direful Adam. It says, I get that response often whenever the need to right-click comes up. Suddenly, as soon as they acknowledge the second button on the mouse or trackpad, they're now unable to use the computer they've had for 10 years, because before they click on anything, they have to ask left or right click, even though they only needed to right click that one thing that one time. Unbearable. There's a commenter down below this one called Atomic Snarl, and they said something that is exactly what I use when I explain left and right clicking to people who don't really know computers. It says, I've been describing the two mouse buttons as action and choice. Action makes something happen, and choice usually brings up a menu of things to choose from. Emphasize usually. Can we also just take a moment to recognize that the person that OP is helping in this case is a professor at a university, and this professor is asking, what's a click? Yeah, the tech standards for this university's professors may be lacking just a little bit, a smidge. This story comes to us from Zyrak. That time, I got finessed by my coworker. I've been out of IT for a while now, but one of my friends is dealing with a CloudStrike issue that brought down his whole company going on 2 weeks now. It has me reminiscing about the good old days. Back at my last job, I had a coworker who was, to be honest, lazy. He was a good dude, always left a room with everyone smiling and laughing, but didn't do anything he didn't have to do. Anyway, Dan, as he will now be called, stopped by my office looking for a 50-foot Ethernet cable. We generally didn't need cables that long, and didn't keep a lot of them on hand, so I asked why he needed it. He decided to show me since the office he was hooking up was right down the hall. We walk into a rectangular office with a printer in the bottom left corner and one PC in each of the upper corners. Problem was, there were ports in the upper corners and the bottom right corner. Dan was going to run a 50-footer all the way around the room clockwise to the port on the bottom right to avoid the door to the office. Now, I explained to Dan we don't need to hunt down a 50-foot cable. We can get away with using shorter cables if we go from the printer in the bottom left to the port in the upper left, from the PC in the upper left to the upper right, and from the PC in the upper right to the bottom right. Dan didn't get it, so I explained it again. Dan still didn't get it. At this point, I just said, "You know what, Dan? I'll take care of it." As soon as I said that, he had a huge grin, shook my hand, and was gone before I could say another word, leaving me standing in that office with its soon-to-be occupant staring at me expectantly. I instantly knew Dan had played me, and I walked right into it. I wasn't even mad, I admired his commitment to the bit. Wherever you are, Dan, I hope you're still playing junior techs for the fool. Yeah, this is a case where you could actually educate this person on how things are supposed to work. You could say to them something like, "Yeah, this is still your job, so you're gonna help me because you need to learn how to do this." Dan sounds like the kind of person that will push off any job they can onto somebody else, so if you can hold them to it and actually get them to do the work, maybe they won't come to you again and try to dupe you. This story comes to us from Only West 1. Why don't people listen? I've been in systems roughly 10 years at this point. If I miss one syllable, someone says, "I'm an evil bastard." There is no winning. Someone sends a 13-thread email chain and wants me to piece together what they need. Now, I can try and piece it together and miss something and they get mad, or I can flat out say, "Could you please summarize what it is you need from me?" I feel if I try to piece it together, I will miss key information. Now, both approaches are going to get someone mad at me, but I'd rather they be mad at me and I have all of the information. Meanwhile, no one listens to me. I was in a meeting Friday and said, "I have addressed both the functionality and config item." And this woman spoke after me, "See, OP is only talking about the config item, we need to address both." This was a recent interaction with an exec. A C-level executive asked me to send credentials for a new hire. I sent them in an encrypted internal email. She replies verbatim, "I did not receive the email." This was odd. She was receiving all my other messages, and this is an internal email. Still, I gave her the benefit of the doubt and sent it again. Her reply, "I did not receive the email." I ran a trace. It showed as delivered. I followed up. "It shows delivered. Please check your junk or deleted items." Her response, "I did not receive the email." So I checked her mailbox from my end. Sure enough, the emails were sitting in her deleted items. I let her know. Again, she said, "I did not receive the email." At this point, I called her. She shared her screen, opened her deleted items, and there they were. I asked her to open one. She said, "But they're blank." I explained, encrypted emails don't display in the reading pane. You have to double-click to view them. I also politely pointed out the text in the reading pane that explained this. Here's the wild part. She was getting the emails, was deleting them, and never once said, "They're coming in blank." She insisted she wasn't receiving them at all, even after being told they were in her deleted folder. Not once did she mention, "Oh, I deleted them." Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called Ubera90. It says, "Users being users, unfortunately. You just have to remain polite and make sure you don't come off as passive-aggressive, even though the lack of common sense is infuriating. They will pick up on passive-aggressiveness, even though they can't follow simple instructions, unfortunately, and you're better off if the user likes you." OP responded and said, "Yeah, I am very approachable, to the point people are comfortable on one-to-one calls. They don't mince words with me, not toward me, just about a situation. An exec threw around the F word over a situation I was helping resolve. A senior marketing woman did the same thing. People feel too comfortable with me because I don't judge or repeat and work to be approachable. I think there's a very clear line that needs to be drawn here between swearing at and swearing with. Although, in a business environment when you're talking to somebody who's helping you, you probably shouldn't be swearing at all. OP, it's great that people are comfortable with you, but don't let them be too comfortable with you because then they'll just walk all over you. Alright, I think we'll end this one here. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to follow us on your favorite podcasting platform. And if you're watching and listening on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and drop a like on the video. It really does help us out. Make sure to check out my pen site at CanadianRob.com. I thank you for watching and listening. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.